Hi, folks. Welcome to the live. We'll go through what I have here to tell you about, and at the end, we'll pause for a moment before I go on into the wrap up and outro. And I've noticed that the outro, the volume on that outro is really loud, so I've turned it down a bit today. Hopefully, it will be less jarring. Alrighty, here we go. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for August 15th. August 15th is the 227th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 228th in leap years, with 138 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is reductionism. Reductionism is a noun, and it means a philosophical or scientific approach that attempts to explain complex matters by reducing them to simpler terms or components, often seen as oversimplification or minimizing. On the one hand, breaking a complex matter down to a simpler, easier to understand component might make it easier to understand, at least at a superficial level, but on the other hand, a reductionist approach can be a way to, can be a way to glaze over things and avoid a deep understanding, like the difference between let me explain this to you in the simplest of terms versus don't trouble your pretty little head about it. A thing to appreciate about reductionism is that something that's actually pretty complicated can be conveyed in sort of an overview, which is fine if you don't need to know that much about it. Critics of reductionism complain that it oversimplifies things too much and doesn't give a full answer or enough information. Probably depends on how much information you actually need. Interesting concept anyway, isn't it? The word reductionism evolves with many twists and turns and rearrangements from Latin. First known use of the word reductionism appears to be in the early 1900s or so. Reductionism. And I just realized that I forgot to turn on Do Not Disturb. So now we have Do Not Disturb on. Alrighty. The word reductionism was requested by one of my viewers. Thanks, Debbie. That was a good one. And if you have a word you'd like us to look into here in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments and we'll get it on the list and take it apart. And with that, the foundation stone of the Cologne Cathedral in Cologne, Germany was laid on August 15, 1248. Planned to house the reliquary of the three kings, this was a huge and ambitious project. The first section of it was complete enough to be consecrated 74 years later in 1322 so that they could at least begin to use part of the building. Work continued until 1473 when construction stopped for a while. About 400 years, plus or minus. Now, I've never participated in a new construction project, but I have been involved in several fairly major residential renovations. And one of the first things I learned is that it takes longer and costs more than you figured it would, and it makes a bigger mess, but that's another story. The point here is it takes longer and costs more than you thought it would. And that appears to be the case with the Cologne Cathedral, but they were finally able to get funding and finish the job in the 1840s. That's when work resumed, and the cathedral was completed in 1880, some 632 years after it had been begun. The Cologne Cathedral. Wiley Post and Will Rogers, a couple of remarkable individuals. Most often referred to as a humorist, Will Rogers was also a columnist, cowboy, radio personality, actor, and vaudevillian. Even back in his day, he observed that this country is bigger than Wall Street, and if they don't believe it, show them the map. Wiley Post, another remarkable individual, 17 years, Will Rogers Jr., he lost his left eye in an accident on an oil rig, which is why we often see him with that distinctive eye patch. Wiley Post became an aviator and was the first pilot to fly solo around the world. As he often flew at high altitudes, he helped develop one of the first pressure suits, which is the basic design for the suits that astronauts use today. Wiley Post also discovered the jet stream. Somewhere along the way, these two met up and became good friends. Wiley Post was on a trip to survey mail and passenger air routes between the United States and Russia by way of the Alaska Territory. Will went along for the ride. On August 15, they'd flown from Fairbanks, heading for Barrow, Alaska, the northernmost settlement in the United States. That has been renamed now to something I can't pronounce. They'd made a stop a little southwest of Barrow to get directions, and when they went to take off again, the engine failed and they crashed. Sadly, both men lost their lives in that crash, and that's a loss we still feel these decades later. Will Rogers and Wiley Post. This is the birthday of songwriter, composer, and singer Jimmy Webb, born August 15th, 1946. I talked a good bit about him in last year's episode, so I'll remember to leave a link for that one if you'd like to know more about him. We'll plug that link in after the live is over because I forgot to put it in beforehand. He is a prolific songwriter with several platinum-selling hits. This award-winning songwriter's work is definitely worth giving a listen to, and I'm happy to say that Jimmy Webb is still alive and still working, turns 78 in 2024. Now, we do have a playlist of episodes for this day in history, as well as a playlist of single subjects called How About That? And words of the day in a playlist called There's a Word for That. And I'll leave, I think that I already have links to those playlists in the description. Today's song is Up, Up, and Away by The Fifth Dimension. This is a happy little sunshine pop song released in 1967 by The Fifth Dimension. It was written by Jimmy Webb, whose birthday is today, and produced by Johnny Rivers and Mark Gordon. Up, Up, and Away got in the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 and Billboard's Easy Listening chart, and made number 1 in Canada and Australia. Backing music was performed by the loose assembly of studio musicians known as the Wrecking Crew. We've mentioned them before. Up, Up, and Away has been covered by other artists as well. Up, Up, and Away by The Fifth Dimension. Link in the description. Alrighty, we're going to pause for a moment here. Hi, pancakes. How y'all doing today? Good to see y'all here. And I guess we're going to get on about our day here at the Bowers household in Fort Worth. And y'all take care. I think it's only 82 degrees here yet, but I think we're going to get up to about 101 today. So stay cool if you can. And we'll see you next time. All right, here we go. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with the link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page called No Really. And you can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.